Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Joel Despain, the Public Information Officer for the Madison Police Department. I want to thank everyone for joining us this afternoon. For the last couple of weeks, a lot of people from this department, particularly those in our North District, have been working very hard on a very serious case. We did put out an incident report regarding this case when it initially happened. We're now in a position to release some more information as it relates to a home invasion that took place in our North District. We will start the news conference out with Interim Chief Randy Gabriel. Chief.
Good afternoon. We typically do not call a news conference when we're dealing with home invasions, as we don't really see a lot of these in Madison, and the ones that we do see usually involve people who are involved in drugs or they're targeted for their specific crimes. This particular case that Joel's referring to could have been a case like that, as it too was targeted. But unfortunately, in this case, the suspects hit the wrong address. They broke into the home of a husband and wife who were asleep in the middle of the night. And after they broke in, they brutally assaulted both the husband and the wife. I can tell you that in my 27-plus years of policing here in Madison, this is probably one of the most disturbing and heinous crimes that I've ever seen. Tomorrow, the criminal complaint will be filed in court. But I wanted to stand here and reassure the citizens of Madison and our community that we in the Madison Police Department take these crimes very, very seriously. We have dedicated many resources to identifying the suspects in this crime, to bring them to justice, to hold them accountable for their actions. The officers, the detectives, and the command staff that have worked very hard on this case have subsequently arrested 6 individuals who we believe are responsible for this case. It is our intent to do everything in our power to hold them accountable and make sure that they do not commit similar crimes of this nature in our community or any community. What I'd like to do now is turn it over to Lieutenant Joey Skenador. He's the commander of this investigation. He can provide some details, although he won't be able to get into a lot of details as this is an ongoing investigation. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. I'm Detective Lieutenant Joey Skenador. I'm a Detective Lieutenant for the North District assigned to this investigation. What I'll give you is a short synopsis of what occurred on February 23rd in the early morning hours of 4 a.m. We responded to a home invasion robbery which occurred on Quincy Avenue on the city's north side. While investigating the robbery, it was revealed that the suspects who perpetrated this crime went to the wrong address and victimized an innocent couple who were asleep in their residence. The suspects, who were armed, forced entry into the residence and battered both residents. During the course of the robbery, several suspects repeatedly sexually assaulted the female resident who is 6 months pregnant. The suspects removed several items from the property from the residence, and since that time we've recovered some of the property that was stolen during the robbery. The suspects were in the residence for approximately 40 to 50 minutes. After the suspects exited the residence, the victims attempted to contact neighbors to notify the police. However, neighbors didn't answer the doors. As a result, they were forced to walk to a local business to use 911. On Sunday afternoon of the same day, officers took Meshawn Thomas into custody for a probation violation. On Wednesday, February 26th, officers and detectives from the Madison Police Department took Christopher Hughes into custody for a probation violation. Detectives from the Madison Police Department continue to investigate the home invasion robbery, and with the assistance of several outside agencies, took Efeme Neumauer, Eric Bass, and DeAndre Mayweathers into custody on March 6th for charges related to this crime. During the investigation, it was discovered that 2 of the suspects, DeMarco Mallet and Christopher Hughes, were observed on video attempting to conceal or destroy property taken during the commission of the robbery. As a result, DeMarco Mallet was taken into custody on a probation violation. The Dane County District Attorney's Office Crime Response Team has been providing services to the victims. It is extremely important not to re-victimize these victims, so at this time we are not revealing their identity. In the weeks following the crime, multiple work units from within the Madison Police Department and surrounding police agencies took part in the investigation. Because of the hard work and dedication of the men and women in the law enforcement community, 6 suspects associated with this home invasion are in custody. At this time, I'll turn it over to Julie Foley from the Dane County Victim Witness Unit. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Again, I'm Julie Foley. I'm with the Trauma Response Component of Victim Services for the Dane County District Attorney's Office. We have a unique relationship with the Madison Police Department in that when a criminal act occurs, especially a criminal act of this nature, we're called upon to provide services quickly, both practical, meeting the practical needs of victims in terms of safety and also the emotional needs of victims. We're also very, very lucky to have Joel Despain as our public information officer. He recognized the need from the very beginning that certainly this act, which again has not been paralleled in many officers' career in the history of their career in terms of severity, that victims need more than anything to be protected, their privacy, their anonymity. Joel was careful not to identify exactly where they lived and any other particulars that would draw more attention to them and the nature of this crime. The criminal complaint comes out tomorrow, and in trauma services, we always say to people that this grave private tragedy should not be exacerbated by the public attention that is brought to bear after the fact. A criminal complaint needs to contain information and specifics in order to be able to charge these individuals and hold them accountable. There is no need for the public or for the broadcast media to take advantage of those details any more than is necessary. I guess my feeling is, as a community, when we witness individuals have to go through something this terrible, we should all gather around them and take the opportunity that we have and exercise the care that we are able to minimize the amount of details and the public comments that follow. These individuals love this community. After we talked with them the first time and said, we don't blame you if you feel less secure and less comfortable, and they said, we love this community and everything about it. They made specific mention of how law enforcement embraced them from the very beginning and made them feel as though this was a home that could be safe again. We would just ask that everyone, again, all community members would gather around them and offer the support that everybody has available to make them recover as wholly as possible from this circumstance. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Julie. As you've heard, because of the nature of the crimes and the fact that a criminal complaint is being filed tomorrow, this case is really now in the hands of the district attorney. We can try to answer some general questions, but we can't get into the specifics of what's going to be contained within the criminal complaint. So having said that, if you have questions for any of the folks who are here today, please let me know. Nico? I'm sorry, Jennifer, go ahead.
In the incident report, it was East Washington.
Right. When the crime initially occurred, because the street on which this crime took place is a relatively small street, in speaking with Julie Foley and the detectives, the decision was made that we would not identify even the street at that time. Since that time now, we're feeling more comfortable to put out Quincy as the street as to where this crime took place. But in the original incident report that I posted, there is a little mention below the East Washington Avenue that this is not the specific street, and the reason we were not identifying a specific street was, again, to protect these victims. Nico, yes?
Who is believed to have been involved in the robbery itself? It sounds like Mr. Mallet believed that he was not part of the...
Yeah. I think, does everyone have I handed out a sheet with the tentative charges on it. I think if you take a look at the sheet, that will sort of highlight for you who we believe did what in relationship to the crimes. So Detective Lieutenant Skenendor, do you want to add anything to that?
No, again.
I think that's the reason that I handed out this sheet. I think you should be able to see who, and if you have other questions after the news conference, certainly I can try to walk you through that. But I think if you take a look at the sheet, you'll see what we're alleging as it pertains to each individual. Other questions?
Were you able to figure out who they were trying to invade? Did that ever come out?
Without speaking too much out of school, and I probably should have Detective Lieutenant Skinner say this, but I can tell you that there was, we believe, a residence in the area that was the target. And these people, again, it's clear they hit the wrong residence. Detective Lieutenant Skinner, you want to add anything to that?
No, from our investigation.
Come on up to that microphone if you could.
From our investigation, it's fairly obvious that they hit the wrong address. Without going into really specific detail, they clearly knew they were in the wrong residence.
Can you explain what their intent was? Going in?
I can't. It was a robbery, a home invasion style robbery.
Looking for something in particular at a particular home?
Yeah, like I said, without going into further detail, I can't really comment on that.
And you said they became aware fairly quickly they were in the wrong home, you believe?
I believe so, yeah.
So they basically tried to make the best of their situation to rob and...
I can't comment on what their intentions were and when they got in the house. I just don't know.
Can you say what the extent of the injuries were to a couple who were unfortunately victims of this assault and invasion? But you're talking about how gruesome this instance was in the history of the department. What makes it that severe?
I'm not going to go into that at this time. Like, this investigation is still fluid and ongoing. To release those details prior to the criminal complaint would be premature, and I won't do that.
Their injuries.
I feel comfortable in answering a couple of these questions, and I think if you take a look again at the tentative charges, included among those are armed robbery, first-degree sexual assault, 6 counts, substantial battery while armed. Again, we're not going to get into the specifics as to what took place in the home, but I think if you take a look at the tentative charges, you can realize that these are significant crimes. And again, to reiterate, we do believe that they were targeting a residence. For whatever reason, they hit the wrong residence, and the people inside were very, very innocent people. And the people who got into that home decided to perpetrate crimes, even though we believe they knew they were in the wrong residence fairly quickly.
Now, this wasn't that long ago. I mean, either of them still hospitalized, or are they...
Both individuals were taken to a hospital. They're no longer hospitalized.
Maybe Ms. Foley can speak to this, but what sort of support services have they been, receiving from law enforcement from the DA's office?
Well,
As is a matter of course, I think most often you assist with the practical, any kind of, if individuals are victims of burglary or robbery, we attend to the safety issues first, any kind of property losses or lodging. I mean, oftentimes if you're victimized in your home, it doesn't feel like a safe place to be. I don't think it would be for any one of us, and so we assist with the practical, and then hopefully, if we do our jobs well enough, we figure how we can gain the trust of victims so that we can help them recover from this emotionally. And did that answer your question?
Julie, you've been involved in this for quite a while as well. When you stepped into this, what was your take on what was going on as far as the needs of these folks? How would you characterize it in your experience?
Well, I think what I had mentioned before is we haven't seen senseless brutality like this very often. I love this community, and I do feel like all of us call this home because it's a safe and welcoming place to be. But after the fact, when something terrible like this happens, again, we can help facilitate recovery just by being the community that we are. And I know that there are times when I see the worst of the community come out in the blog comments after stories or in sort of Facebook postings and things like that. I try to empathize with the individuals that have gone through what they've gone through and imagine how much worse it is. So I guess in my experience, these are remarkable people that will recover. I believe that. They have all of the personal tools in place to recover from this. There was absolutely brilliant police work, and the detectives have partnered with these individuals from the beginning. The only thing that is remaining is that the community steps up and just says, we're going to do everything we can to create a shelter around them and not capitalize on this victimization.
How long have they lived in that area? I don't want to get too specific either, but can you talk about, have they been a long-time resident of that area?
Yeah, I think, Doug, we're not comfortable in talking a lot about them and the specifics of their lives, because I don't want to really do anything that would indicate to others who these people might be. So we really are just, I know that a lot of times we will put out a little more information, like the 100 block and where people live. In this particular case, it's such a tragedy, and we really are doing everything we can to make sure that these people maintain their anonymity. And so I think you guys know I try to help you when I can, but in this case, we're just really not going to talk too much about their history in the city, what they do here, but these are good citizens. They're very good citizens.
Can you give a ballpark figure? Are they young, middle, elderly?
I think in the original Reese I said that they're in their 30s. So
Was everyone charged today?
these are tentative charges, and you'd have to check with the district attorney's office. My understanding, again, is that the criminal complaint would be filed tomorrow, and those would be the specific charges brought by the DA. But again, we've been working hand in hand with the DA's office on this case, and so we anticipate that what you see on this piece of paper that I've handed out today, those are likely to be the criminal charges filed by the DA tomorrow.
Do you believe there's any danger for the community? Do you believe there's more suspects, or?
Well, we believe that the people that were participating either directly or indirectly in this case are the 6 people that you see on the board over here. Again, I want to reemphasize something that the chief said at the beginning, and for those of you who talk to me on a regular basis, I tell you when we have home invasions, they're typically drug-related and they're targeted. Again, this case was targeted, but they hit the wrong house. And so there isn't, in my opinion, and I've lived here most of my life, a general danger to the community to have a case like this happen to them because it's such a rarity. That's one of the reasons we're having this news conference. So most of the home invasions we have are drug-related, and the general public should not fear that this is going to happen to them. It's horrible that it happened to this couple.
Were the injuries substantial enough to the woman where she may have lost the pregnancy, or can you?
I'm just not going to talk anything about the extent of their injuries other than to say that what's been alleged is a substantial battery. People can look that up in the statutes, and it's a first-degree sexual assault that's been alleged in multiple counts.
Will there be additional charges depending on the DA decides?
It's also up to the district attorney, can also amend the charges and add others. We believe at this time that we've arrested these people on tentative charges that we think can be proved in court.
You mentioned drug-related. Can we say that about this case?
No, I don't have that information. What I know is that the individuals, that 3 of whom you see on the board, went into a home, we believe, and were targeting a residence for a specific reason. But I'm not comfortable in saying what that reason is unless Detective Lieutenant Skinnendor would like to divulge that. But at this time, I don't think we're going to say that. Again, I'd reiterate, the people who were victimized were not involved in drugs. They're not involved in any criminal enterprise whatsoever. These are good citizens who were victimized in a very heinous way.
It was not drug-related in either of them. It's not drug-related.
So this is Captain Jay Langfeld of North District. So they were targeting a residence, but not specifically because they were looking for drugs.
Are each one of these 6, Joel, are they each being charged with a sexual
No, I don't believe so. And again, on the paper it outlines, I think there are 3 of the suspects we're alleging are responsible for at least being party to a crime of first-degree sexual assault. Any other questions? And again, I know you'd like more details, but again, we're giving you what we think is a balance between what the public should know and while protecting these victims at the same time. And additional questions beyond today should be asked of the district attorney because it's really going to be their case.